Okay, so anyway, welcome. I'll officially welcome you. This is the last of our first series of 2023 Reimagining Dementia gatherings. And the last two have just been wonderful. And each one is very, very different, which is what's great. So even if you attended one of the other ones, I mean, some of what I'm about to say will be the same. So if you want to tune out, feel free, it's fine. Just don't make it obvious. But it's always a new conversation, and we'll see what we can create together today. If this is your first gathering, even if it's not your first time hearing about or really meeting the coalition, please raise your hand. Just give us a sense of who's. Okay, so this is a somewhat experienced crowd. Okay, good. Well, then what I'm going to do is just kind of give a brief update on where we are and just some of the developments because we're closing in on probably getting close to 75 members. We've been getting a constant stream of members over the last few weeks. So whatever you all are doing to get word out, please continue because it's working and there's clearly interest. And we continue to look for, and I think this will be an even greater effort in 2023, but really the kinds of creating the kinds of partnerships, alliances, collaborations, conversations that we need and we need to make happen if we're going to accomplish what I think we hope to accomplish. So just some highlights, I suppose, in addition to these wonderful gatherings. We are, in fact, we're going to be, Myrna is here. Sorry, I can't see everyone on screen. We'll be part of a series that Catherine Livingston, who's one of our members in Canada, is creating about dementia, kind of giving people, a new way of looking at dementia. And she's creating it specifically for, kind of directed toward faith communities. And so we are going to create, and I realized the third person who will be involved, Lynn Castile-Harper, is also here. And what was particularly gratifying is in conversations with Catherine, we agreed that the conversation about reimagining dementia, broadly speaking, will lead off the series by way of kind of framing the entire effort and kind of setting up a way for people to see. Roma, you can admit people, right? Okay. So, and we also, some of our UK members are here, Holly Bernie-Gadillo, Holly Marland, and they were part of organizing and hosting a reception in the UK in November that I went over for and spoke and just was lovely. And just a wonderful response, and some very enormously creative people were there, and as well as a number of community people who are equally creative. And we're now in the process of beginning to see how we might take all that and impact on what's going on in the UK, which is quite a bit. We've also been approached, speaking of the UK, we're developing a relationship with Three Nations Dementia Work Group, which was created by people living with dementia in Wales and in England, and have been approached by a newish group called Voices of Alzheimer's, which was also being created by people living with dementia and their allies. And I think both of these are wonderful developments, I think very important. And we were also recently, we wrote a guest editorial for Seniors for Social Action in Ontario. Read it. It's a little tricky. I wrote it, happened to write it, but I also think it's a very good piece. So if you don't agree, that's fine. But it's on our website, which I also urge you to check out. There's a lot of very interesting media, member contributions, just some very, I think, important stuff. And it's a way to keep up with and learn more about what some of our members are doing. And then also we're connecting with colleagues in Brazil, Nigeria, Tanzania, other countries, and our Reimagining Dementia Malaysia work is also going full bore under the leadership of Cecilia Chan, who originally met us through our video, Let's Reimagine, which again, if you haven't seen, please watch it. It's on our video, and please continue to get it out. Actually, we just heard back from a group, one of our members, Peggy Cahill, and I met with some folks up in Boston, where Peggy lives, about working together. And they'd never seen the video, so we sent it to them afterwards, and they were just blown away. They loved it. Hi, Peggy. Sorry. So anyway, and Cecilia Chan is a dynamo. There's also some pieces that she's written on our website, which I really, really urge you to read. I think she has a lot to say. So obviously, if others during the course of this conversation want to add some other developments that I'm either not mentioning or I'm not trying to give a comprehensive overview. So before going on to the kind of the meat of the meeting, although this is all part of the conversation, we, as we always do, kind of want to have some opening fun, bring us all together. For that, today we've asked Mal Mulmey to lead it. Mal is a Boston-based theater artist, activist, writer, professional healthcare clown. Mal co-wrote and performs in the Pineapple Project, theater piece for kids that celebrate gender creativity. And among their many performances, in addition to today, is a star turn as Dr. Mal Adjusted in Boston area hospitals, which I love. I'm a big believer in being maladjusted, particularly to so much that's going on in the world. So Mal, take it away. Stage is yours.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning, humans.
Morning.
Good morning. If you can have your screen on, your camera on, fabulous. If you can't, I understand. It's fabulous to be in the space as always. And I think for us, I'll be very selfish. For me, what allows me to be more open and present is to take a couple of deep breaths. So if we can all, at our own pace, take a nice deep, full breath in and fill your body, and then release, and feel free to make noise, open sigh when you breathe out. Sometimes that is wonderful to move things up. Let's take another one, nice, full, feel your whole body fill up, feel your feet on the ground. And one more, because we like things in threes. Nice, full, deep breath in, feel your body expand, your belly expand, feet on the ground, butt in your seat. And so for a little fun, we're going to try something new I've never done before. I'm kind of excited to see what it looks like. And this is the best group to do it with. We're going to create an aquarium, or since we're on Zoom, Zoom aquarium or Zoom aquarium or whatever. Anyway, you don't need a glass of water. But we're all going to inhabit or display critters or things that we would find in an ocean. So here's some examples that I've played with. Here is
Shark.
Jellyfish?
Jellyfish. Yes.
Oh, jellyfish.
Here is a sea turtle.
Cool. Oh, cool.
Very cool.
Okay. And here is one of my favorites.
Oh, a pufferfish.
Any kind of fish, yeah. I mean, I could do it this way and it would be
Yay!
clownfish, right? But there's also, we could be seagrasses too, or seaweed or coral. So I feel like we're all incredibly artistic people. So feel whatever critter or seagrass or whatever makes your heart happy, and do that. And when I count when we do, I'm gonna count us down to 3, 2, 1. Be whatever critter you want to be in the ocean, and we're gonna create this aquarium. So we'll be in our own little aquariums, but the larger picture is a vast, inclusive, fabulous aquarium. So does everybody have kind of and feel free to change it. We're gonna do this for a few minutes, not a few moments. So, and we might even do it again. So don't think, just play.
I
Right?
don't think.
Don't think.
Just think.
All right, are we ready? Okay. Take up your whole screen with whatever. 3, 2, 1.
I've got such small fingers.
Feel the ocean moving you. The waves, the wind. Don't swallow any water. Watch each other. It's hilarious. Some people are so creative. I think I see a crab. And if anybody want to make ocean noises, we can do that too. And the ocean is slowing down. It's quiet and peaceful. And all our critters are at rest. Thank you, friends. That was fun. It was great to see everybody today.
Robin,
All right.
what were you? I could see some images, but I couldn't make out completely. But very creative.
Freaky pink organism.
Yeah, if anybody wants to share what they were or what they were imagining they were, and Mary, we can cut this off at any time, but please share what came up for you when you were doing that. If you, there was some great critters. Thanks, friends.
Actually, I think I appreciated the diversity of the ocean more, and just how poetic it is. Well, and actually out of that, let's keep that spirit going. If you want to continue, you maintain your aquarium personas during the conversation, feel free. No. Also, I kind of liked Mal's direction of don't think. Actually, don't think much during this as well. I think just enjoy, be impacted, be curious, respond, build on, but we don't necessarily have to think. It can be, I'm sure you all have to do a lot of thinking during the rest of this day. So I officially give you permission to take the next 40 minutes and go to town. I just wanted to share a couple of quotes by way of kicking off. Hopefully will be a relatively brief intro and setup for the conversation that we'll be creating today. The first is by Krishnamurti. Says, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." The second is by the Indian author Arundhati Roy, who wrote this during the pandemic, but I think it still has enormous resonance generally. Historically, she says, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, our data banks, and our dead ideas and practices behind us. Or we can walk through lightly with little luggage, or we can walk through lightly with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it. So I love that, in part because I think it is the spirit in which the coalition actually was founded long before we read this quote. But nevertheless, I think it moves me a lot because I think that and between the two, I believe we are living in a very sick society, and it's hurting so many people. And I also deeply appreciate Roy's, concern about our letting go of what she calls dead ideas and practices. And I don't mean just the really awful policies and practices we can all point to, complain about. I think most of the ideas, even those considered liberal or well-meaning, I think are equally, they're not doing what we need them to do in order to ensure that we build a world in which everyone can live the lives that they need and want to live. And I think that, so if anything, it just always boosters my enthusiasm for and just, I don't know, excitement about the possibilities of, and the seriousness with which, we have to take that we've got to do better. And right now we don't have the tools with which to do better. And I'm not talking about intent or we're all caring people. This is obviously not an indictment of people or individuals. It's just, we don't have what we need. And the kicker is we're going to have to create them. And we're going to have to create new ways of not only new ideas and practices, new ways of doing family, new ways of healing, new ways of helping, new ways of being human with each other, new conversations, new places to go. And that's not an abstraction for me. Human beings, we do the creating in this world. It's not, with all due respect to the aquarium, it's not the fishes. Now, I'm not saying there are things that we cannot learn from. If anyone's ever watched the Academy Award winning, he was I'm not going to remember its name, which is why I'm trying to give it it was a documentary about I think he was in New Zealand. He formed a relationship with an octopus.
Oh, My Octopus Teacher.
Yes.
Yes, that's so good.
Inspirational, and that I've ever seen. So I'm not but for now, I'm speaking to humans, and we're going to have to do it. And that may seem daunting. That may seem like, oh, please, we can't possibly do that. But we can. And what just would invite everyone to do in case, because I mean creativity in very mundane ways, although I so appreciate the kind of creativity that Mal or Robin, when she led us yesterday, and just has an exquisite voice. And there are so many other people who are really good at the various kinds of arts. And I love that. It adds so much to our world. However, the rest of us, all of us, are creative in very ordinary, mundane ways. So we did this yesterday. So for those of you who were here yesterday, pick up a different object. Pick up an object. I don't care what you pick up. This is a tag for something clearly, but okay, whatever it is. So just look at it for a moment, not as just this product or isolated little entity that may or may not make your life better. Hopefully it does. It's something we created. Everything around us is a human creation, the design, the implementation, the changes. So that's really comes closer to what I mean, that we can, and we are creative now. How we can continue to tap into that, that's the challenge of the day, but we are. And I think it's also, so it's for that reason that, there's the other thing that I think we need to engage the ugliness, the sickness, in ways that just don't, make us all depressed and sad, is to create community, which is very, very important. And community, not as a haven, not as a place to hide or to try to get away from the sadness, the pain, the ugliness, all that's going on that I think we all care about. Sometimes feel impotent to try to do something about. So not as a haven, but as a very human, very messy, and that's one of the things we were talking about yesterday. This is just messy. Passionate living environment, creating environment, which has the capacity to nurture everyone. And by nurture, I mean emotionally, socially, spiritually, in all kinds of ways. To nourish everyone who's working to engage the cruelty and isolation of a havenless world. So I don't know, another way perhaps of saying this, we can create hearts. And I'm so proud of the coalition as one of those hearts. And I think so many of you are involved in creating hearts as well. And so in my UK remarks at the reception I mentioned earlier, I shared some of kind of our basic, where I see the coalition landing on some things and try to keep it simple. Our values is we will always face the community, and we lead with the strong belief that if change, as somebody just said, if change is going to come, we're going to be the ones to do it. It's not a guarantee of success, and it's not even a guarantee that everyone here believes that. But I think the coalition believes that we need to stay focused on reaching the community. We're independent, financially and otherwise. We will always lead with creativity. We truly believe that is, if you will, the lens, the process, the approach, the vision that actually everyone in the world needs to embrace. We need to create, to reperform our world. And we have no interest in reinventing any wheels. I mean, of all the people, like there's probably been 100 or so people in these gatherings. That's already 100 people who are doing extraordinary work. And there are thousands and thousands more, many of whom we don't even know about. We're not lacking for organizations, programs, projects that are addressing this, and that's what's so exciting. And in a way, if there weren't, we wouldn't have a coalition, or we've had a coalition of 4 people, but we don't. We have a coalition that's growing and is already, over 700 people. And that's just a drop in the bucket. I truly believe that. But so fortunately, given that all of you are taking care of the wonderful projects, although, I think we all love to work a little less in silo, and I think that's why we're here. But ultimately, our job, the coalition's job, is to see if we can creatively take all of what we've created, our experience, our discoveries, our passions, and leverage that to reshape, to transform the broader conversation and attitudes toward dementia. But also to actually flip the script about what we have to offer. Because whereas I'm all for the projects that work to give in so many creative ways to people living with dementia and their families and those impacted, I don't want to ever lose sight of, I think we in the dementia community and people living with dementia have so much to offer to the world. And that's underappreciated. I think everyone would benefit from living more creatively, more fun. And as Myrna said yesterday, and she can say this again, she said at some point, what she's learned over time is that what people living with dementia want is to have fun. I think that should be I think we should invite everybody to simply be able to have some more freaking fun in our lives. Who wouldn't benefit from that? I don't think we have to wait until we're, older and perhaps may or may not be diagnosed, to simply recognize that the world and all of us would be better if we had that capacity. So all of that is kind of what we're looking to do. And hopefully, as I said, to do it with fun, with joy, with humanity, intimacy, with curiosity. And again, in very human ways, which again will mean it's going to be messy. It will be flawed. It will be all over the place, but it will be ours. And that's what I feel most strongly about. So just to wrap up, and the reason, one of the reasons that I'm passionate, and yesterday I think we had this lovely conversation, and kind of where one of the things that we're focused on and for the coalition, we're thinking about in terms of 2023, is one of them is we want to creatively impact on the relationship with the healthcare community. That's important. So that'll be one thing. We want to continue expanding internationally and creating, and supporting our colleagues internationally, which they need our support. And particularly the support from people who are, none of us are doing so great, but our countries are far wealthier. They have more, and we have a lot to offer. But then also we want to take this reimagining conversation directly to people, directly to the community. And as somebody, we kind of informally called it yesterday, creating our Taking It to the Streets campaign. Because, and part of this is that there's a couple of reasons, and then I want to open it up. One is, and this is just kind of something I've been thinking a lot about, and I'm sure you have, millions and millions and millions of people are impacted by dementia or cognitive decline. It's not an exotic disease that 20 people get, over and over there. It's everywhere. And we all know that if we walked outside right now and spoke to 20 strangers, all 20 of them will no doubt have dementia in their lives, or know somebody who does, or have an attitude about it, be frightened to death, whatever that is. I mean, relationships don't have to be direct. We all have attitudes about a lot of things we don't necessarily come into contact with every day, but it's there, it's millions, and it's becoming the leading cause of death in many countries. So and yet it is surrounded and continues to be surrounded by what I have come to call just a gigantic cone of silence. Like you would think it's just not a part of the ordinary discourse of everyday people, day to day, walking the streets. And that has to change because, I don't know a lot about the world. But I do know or somebody who's been organizing for a long time, no social change movement, and I'm talking from the beginning of time, I'm not just talking about in 2023, has succeeded without touching the hearts and minds of ordinary people. And I'm talking about people who may never call a hotline, may never visit our organizations, may never care to be involved. And when we very beginning formed the coalition, that was very important to us, that we wanted to be a place where people who didn't have a political bone or a socially conscious bone, or they just thought, we can do better. And we want to be part of doing better. Not doing the same old things, doing better. So I wanted to open it up and use the rest of our time. Actually, really, I changed it all up yesterday, so I'm not changing it up so much today, but it's really originally, and Romeo, who I want to thank for being our technical support person today. Can you put the poem in the chat now? I'd originally in emails, and I don't want anyone to confess you never read my emails, so you should all nod as if for sure you know what I'm going to say.
We don't read.
This is a poem that originally we were going to kind of have people introduce themselves, and you still can, but we've mixed everything together. So if you would like to use the poem that Romeo's about to add to the chat, it's the I Am poem that's been created. You can use that as a model for introducing kind of you and your work. But more, I think we want to open it up more broadly and but in a way ask people to introduce yourselves, if you will. as part of creating a conversation and sharing how what I'm saying and what we're presenting now kind of impacts how you hear it, whether you think it's possible. How do you feel about going to the community? Do you think it's important? Do you think this is just silly? It's a waste of our resources. And I don't care what the response is. I think people should be honest. But to really, and how that might look for you and how you, what you want to bring into it. So I'm not going to overdetermine, obviously, this is a group of people, but I would open up and just kind of see where we are, and including emotionally, because I was saying yesterday that this is hard to try to make change in this world right now. I mean, it's hard all the time. No social change group has exactly been a walk in the park at all. But, you know, we are now. So, and I know for me, the emotionality of day to day is just all over the place. And I think we've got to factor that in. We need all of that as fuel. And the last thing we want to do is have people pretend to be like, wow, yeah, we can do this. But then, I don't know, day to day, we wake up and, from speaking for myself, I just sometimes just lie in bed and think, God, is this are we kidding ourselves? This is just ridiculous. So feel free to share anything and everything, but at this point, let's open it up. And, oh, sorry, just ask, well, actually, we're only on one screen, so ignore that. Anyone can speak. If you want to use the raise your hand thing, please do, to let me know you want to talk, but let's open it up.
Yes, maybe I'll.
Nayla, and did somebody else want to go? And okay,
I can go
Actually-
after Nayla.
all right. Actually, if people could, yeah, sorry, I don't want to be, but my comprehension is not what it used to be. If possible, use the raising hand thing, just so I can see it. And so Nayla, Amanda, and then we'll go to Kat and anyone else who follows. Okay, Nayla, it's yours.
Oh boy, no, I don't know. I guess I just was thinking about a question, as you said, that, you know, I do think it's not hopeless and that we should be doing what we're doing here. So that I completely am on board with, and I think that we can make a difference. But I know this has come up before, and I'm just curious to ask again how people envision in this group knowing whether we made a difference. Is it a matter of people, the number of people we reached? Is it a matter of policy? Is it a matter of like just watching? I mean, how do you ever measure social change? But I guess, and I don't think the answer is to quantify it. Like I'm coming from I'm a postdoc at Yale, so I'm coming from a research background, but I don't think that's the answer of, you know, quantifying social change for people's perspectives on dementia. But it was just a question about what you would 5 years down the road, would you say like, oh, we have done it? What would that look like to you, to anyone?
Well, actually, let's factor this in. I want to go on just because I think this is a question that we can kind of resonate and perhaps continue to explore it as we go through. So I think it's a good question. Amanda?
Okay, so I was looking at your poem over here where we can insert some things
Sure.
and having some reflection there. So I will just read through it and insert, you know.
Sure.
I am Amanda Oporta, recently was Mosier, from Bloomington, Indiana. I'm a member of the coalition because I am passionate about advocating for people who don't always have a voice, and also because I need to learn to play more. I am, let's see, I am in this world to, in this special place in this world is really just being with people who are like-minded, but also ones that I can learn from. So it's not really a place for me, but just an environment for me. I am passionate about just creating a voice and creativity in all different forms, and hearing from other people's creative backgrounds so that we can build new spaces and environments that are conducive for everyone. I am reimagining dementia by thinking outside the box and always hearing from those people who experience it, because that always helps me refocus on what I really need to do. I don't want to reimagine dementia without those who are experiencing it. So there are lots of different things I could say to that, but thank you.
Lovely, bravo. Kat?
Oh, well, good morning. Thank you, Mary, for convening all these passionate souls and people and creativity and fun. So I am Kat. I am a member of the coalition because I want people living with dementia to truly live and be an accepted, supported, seen members of the world and the communities. And I think I'm here because community is where things happen. We go beyond the limitations and legalities of institutions and walls and policies, and we go door to door with our casserole dish of what we have to share. And I have lost 6 members of my family to dementia. This has been in my life since I was 6 years old. I have worked for the government at the FDA, trying to prove new products, and I work for a big healthcare organization now. But growing up and deciding it's time to dare to do differently for people living with dementia. And I partnered up with Nancy Nelson to create what we call Dangle and Dot, to talk about caregiving and living with dementia. And we've started a little small, tiny little company at this point to hopefully gig employ people living with dementia and their caregivers, just give some purpose and things, just normal life. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone.
Sure. Wonderful. And by the way, I mean, on one hand, please share and respond to each other. I mean, I really love to hear what you think about the things that Neil is saying or the things that are being written in whatever, but so that this is actually something, and so Laura, you wanna?
Hi,
Sure.
everyone. I'm gonna lower my hand. My name is Laura Smothers Chu. I am a member of the coalition because my dad had dementia when I was 28, and I lived 3.5 hours away. I was an only child. And I found that, as Mary was talking about earlier, we don't get enough tools, especially long distance caregivers. So I am redefining what a long distance caregiver means. I'm defining it as not living with the person with dementia, because for me, I don't think it's a geographical distance, like a scientific definition. I think it's an emotional disconnect. So what I'm trying to do is provide the tools for long distance caregivers to share the burden with the primary caregiver living with the person with dementia, and also help bring fun to the person living with dementia and to understand how to do that. So let's see. And I'm passionate about giving long distance caregivers a voice. I think that we tend to get a bad rap because it's not, I feel like it's not like that we don't want to help, it's that we don't know how to help. And so that is the gap that I'm trying to fill. And it still blows my mind that I'm the only one in the dementia field that specializes in this, like in the country, in the world. And that needs to change, because I really feel like long distance caregivers can help really relieve the stress on, primary caregivers. I think it can be neighbors, it can be friends. I mean, we can involve everyone in this, as long as everyone knows how to help the person with dementia and the caregiver. And I really think that that has to do with creativity and fun. So let's see. And I'm reimagining dementia because my dad had dementia and I had a very close relationship with him. And I learned how to be in the present moment. So what I'm trying to do is teach long distance caregivers, as much as I can tell, what it's like to have dementia. And this group is so helpful for me to see that. And also what it's like to be the primary caregiver, so they can be, long distance caregivers can be more involved because they understand.
Just curious, Lauren, I'm not at all trying to put you on the spot, but since we're introducing a newish, how do you think about it? How do you feel about, like, in a way, are wanting to, if you will, take it to the streets? Because it occurs to me that, and we touched on this yesterday, I think I agree with you. I think experiencing dementia, one of the things I think we offer to the world is some understanding and practice of, and having gone through the challenges of how to be in the moment with somebody. I mean, the only slight disagreement I have with the way that's talked about, I mean, yes, it's valuable for people living with dementia, but the way it's presented is a little bit like the rest of us have it down in the rest of our lives. And really, if we could only get it together there. But I don't know about you, we're rarely in the moment with anybody in our lives.
Oh yeah, I completely agree.
You know what I mean? So but I think what you're saying is important. So do you think, how do you feel about taking that actually, again, to the streets? I really would love to know. And
yeah, I think for me personally, I think mindfulness does that for me. And I teach my clients about mindfulness and how to be present, because I do love that, it's essentially like, from what I understood from my dad, it's like you don't have the ego anymore. You know what I mean? And I think there's value in that, that we don't have the memory and things like that.
So we'll sign you up as, that's one of the things you will bring to the park or the street.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
Street corner.
Yes. Mindfulness. Yes.
Then good. Our communities will be as a whole mindful, which, I'm all for. Myrna.
So I'm thinking about if I need to actually say this, and I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. Words like burden and they and are so stigmatizing that I actually feel physically sick when I hear words like that. And I believe with all my heart that it's our community's response to our illness. I am not a burden. I am a happy, contributing person in society. When I am far in my disease, somebody will have to care for me. And I think they'll do that out of love. Let's throw that language away. As long as we continue to use this language, people with dementia will not join groups like this because it is too hurtful. I'm sorry to be so negative on such a fun day, but this needs to be said. Please don't hurt us with your words.
Thank you, Myrna.
Again,
Thank you.
I think that is a statement we should take out. Because you're right. We'll get related to as burdens, and that's all. And the stigma is really people from growing. Others.
Dr. Cheryl.
Yep, Cheryl, and then Jane. And then we'll come back to Nayla, and then we will respond to your question. Cheryl, can you unmute her?
a terrible time unmuting. I wanted to reflect a little bit on what Laura said, and actually what Myrna said too. Most of the work that I do as a volunteer and professionally is about helping people with the mechanics of providing care. But what the piece that's always missing is what you were talking about, I think, Laura, that there's joy here, there's positivity, there's laughter, and what Myrna said, there are real people with ongoing personality, with ongoing need, with ongoing likes for ice cream or or watching Murder, She Wrote. It's just, and I think our job here, I'm not much for using drama, using song, using some of the wonderful things that Reimagining does. But I do with my words try to get people to really see the real person, the other real person in the room. And, and to make those warm and fun connections, those affirming connections.
Jane. And then Helen, and we'll come back to Nayla and probably wrap up with that. Jane, do you want to?
I'm Jane Washburn. I'm a person who has had an undiagnosed problem my entire life that wasn't diagnosed till I was 50, because I didn't look like somebody who was having cognitive problems. I didn't fit in the box. And today I have successfully redefined my life. And I am just one of the things I want to emphasize here is that we have to be patient with each other. Everybody is here because they care and they have a true care about this subject, but everybody's coming from a different place. And with my mother with dementia, I didn't see it the same way as I do as a person with dementia. And that's the biggest challenge, I think, is how we can all learn to be able to respect and understand each other. And I think patience is really important. So my biggest challenge now, I'm safe now. I've dealt with my huge challenges successfully, and now at 71, I have the luxury of learning how to play.
Great.
But I'm a neophyte. I'm a neophyte.
And I think
Thank you.
It's never too late. That actually it is.
Finally.
Finally. Here.
Yeah.
Helen.
Unmute. Okay. I'm Helen Abel. And I'm a member of the coalition because I want to change the world and, get rid of stigma for all kinds of issues. I was thinking, just to add to this conversation, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who has been diagnosed with dementia, and he was saying I'm thinking about the language that's used, and he was talking about some kind of op-ed that was in the newspaper where the person had used the word demented, and it didn't have to do with people with dementia, but and he wrote a letter in response to that to the editor, challenging that language. And I was just thinking just how insidious all that is. It's not only the stigma of, oh my God, I have dementia, but the language that's used. I mean, it feels like there's so much that has to be taken on. And I guess I love the idea of doing that in as playful and creative a way as we can. And I think that also changes for who we're talking to. I run emotional development groups and I do outreach to people. And it's just very interesting because some people don't want any part of it because they don't want to be associated with dementia. And then others are just open up and just are so happy to be talking about themselves, their family members. So I don't know, I think it's a challenge, and it can only be done through building community and with others. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Nayla, you want to, and then do you still have the same question or?
No, I wanted to move away from questions and also just share
Sure.
question as well. But so I'm part of the coalition because I am a neuroscientist by training, and I'm quite troubled by the way that dementia and also other neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's disease are talked about in the medical world and in the research world. And speaking of language, there's so much that's carried in the ways that we write articles about Alzheimer's disease, for example, that propagate stigma. So I'm part of the coalition because I'm really inspired by the way that you're using creative and playful ways to build inclusive community. And I'm passionate about finding also nonverbal ways, so more embodied ways through movement, through creativity that we can connect. And just thinking about this question of being in the present moment, I think improvisation is a big part of that. And so I'm working a lot with the circus arts. I brought together like neuroscientists who are studying Alzheimer's, people with lived experience of dementia, and family members, and then artists to create a circus performance around the lived experience and research of dementia. But now I'm also working directly with circus students to bring them in contact with people with lived experience. And I'm very curious how the circus arts, like what this point of intersection of being in the present moment, improvising, playing around, what each group could learn from one another in that exchange. So
that's wonderful. You know, as we wrap up, one thing that I think is get to know each other. Reach out to somebody in this. I mean, as I was saying yesterday, I have the privilege of knowing and having spoken and gotten familiar with most of you, not everyone, but most everyone on this. And I can't tell you how much my life has been enriched and how much I've learned and how much I've grown. I really hope you'll just get to know each other. If you just want to be inspired, and it doesn't even have to have a purpose. You don't have to find a official reason to connect. Just reach out to some people. Get to know each other. We'll share the chat, but it will change your life. Because we just are too often alone, and we think that we're and it's just not true. There's just which is why I almost never feel, I mean, occasionally I feel like, are we kidding ourselves? But not because I ever question the quality and the creativity and the innovation and the just experience in our coalition and outside of our coalition, because obviously we don't include everyone. But just to think, but I actually do want to just share a quick response to your earlier question, Nayla, which is, I have no idea how we'll measure it. I mean, so there is something like, it's probably closer to, we'll probably know it if we see it. And yesterday I was kind of joking that, on one hand, I never believe things like this are a numbers game. But let's face it, if 5,000 people signed up tomorrow for the coalition, I would take that as an indicator that something is happening culturally. But I don't think the issue is whether the coalition is generating it all. I think there's a lot of things going on out here that are having an impact that have nothing to do with the coalition. I am not that egocentric. I think there are shifts, changes. If anything, I think we have to get better at reading them and knowing kind of what social change actually looks like and how you kind of can. I think the role of the coalition is to be there as these shifts open up, and to offer then what we have to offer by way of advancing that creatively. On the other hand, if it comes time that we ever want to quote measure, then we'll come to you and other people who do that. And all that I ask is we do it as creatively and with as much fun as we do anything else, and that it have something to do with advancing the work rather than kind of pigeonholing the work to fit. So we're not going to use cookie cutter measurements. That I can guarantee you. I'm not opposed to measuring, but we can't pull something off the shelf and then just say, oh yeah, well, here's what. No, if you're creating something new, you're going to have to create some new ways of seeing the impact, and that'll be our decisions. And we have many wonderful researchers and people who know a hell of a lot more about it than I do. So that's good. Well, thank you all. We'll continue this conversation. We'll send out the other conversations if you want to take a look at what other people were saying. But thank you again. And thank you for everything that you're doing. Please, I want to give you all big props and for being open. And unfortunately, I have to get off. So let's just do a quick little dancing ourselves out. I just happen to, it's rare, but I have another conversation coming up that I need my Zoom for. So
it might seem crazy what I'm about to say.